the most notorious Xeno game in history. Xenosaga Episode 2, Jenseits Von Gut and Bose, Beyond Good and Evil. Some say it's the game that broke Xenosaga. Others try to forget that it exists, and others say that it's underrated and not as bad as other people say. On our journey through the Xeno series, our next stop takes us to Xenosaga Episode 2. What is there to love? What is there to hate? There's a lot of questions, and let's answer them. Hello everyone. I am Jmulls, and let's get into this. Let's start off with the element of the game that is most readily apparent when you start Episode 2. That is the art style and the character designs. Because, wow, they look different compared to Episode 1. Episode 1 had this cartoonish charm to everything. You had characters like Momo who looked borderline like a space alien, but it worked within the context of Episode 1. And when you get to Episode 2, it's still cartoony and anime, right? Don't get me wrong, but it's a bit more realistic and grounded with its overall art style, that when you go fresh from 1 to 2, it does take a good while for it to really settle in. And someone made a very important and key point early on in my playthrough, and that is, hey, the characters at the start of Episode 2 still retain their outfits from Episode 1. Give them time, let them swap over to the outfits they get for Episode 2, and everyone will just look way better. And you know what? Yeah, they do. When they get the outfits, it works with the art style of Episode 2. Shion gets a complete character redesign, going from a design in Episode 1 that is far more uniform and stereotypically nerdy to one that is appearing way more outgoing and confident. You can debate all you want whether or not that should be the intended effect of those outfits, but I do believe that is the intended reaction that the character designers want you to get out of this redesign. And honestly, I quite like how Xenosaga Episode 2 ended up looking. I think a lot of the characters, especially the more supplementary characters and less important characters, I think they really shine with this art style. The really big and important characters for this game specifically, that being Junior and Momo and Albedo, I think they really shine, alongside Jin and Mogulus. They look really dang good within Episode 2. I thought they looked good in Episode 1 as well, don't get me wrong, but I like how they look in Episode 2, almost in equal measure. And maybe this will be my own hot take, possibly a little bit more in Episode 2. However, when it comes to a character like Cosmos, yeah, when she gets a new outfit, I do think it looks better than how she started Episode 2. I still think I prefer the Episode 1 fit for her and her overall design there. Though I hear Episode 3 is like the best of all worlds for Xenosaga, so we'll see when we get there. I still want to do the other spin-offs before we get there. So yeah, I'm not as antagonistic to the character designs and the art style for Episode 2 as some people may be. I wouldn't even really call it like a top 5 problem that Xenosaga Episode 2 has. It's just, when you're first coming into the game, it's very jarring, and it's hard not to notice. And it can like take you out of it for the first couple of hours or first few hours. But once I think everything settles in, I do think it works. Now, the voice acting's very hit or miss. Some characters knock it out of the park, some feel like they could have used a few more sessions in the recording booth. I don't know whether to blame bad voice acting or bad voice direction, possibly a bit of column A, partly column B, who knows. Momo in combat feels as if her microphone's in a washing machine as well, but for the important scenes and for the important characters, I think they managed to stick the landing well enough. But let's talk about the deepest issue that Xenosaga Episode 2, Jenseits Von Gut and Bose has, and that is the actual gameplay. Oh boy, where do you even start with Episode 2's gameplay? I mean, like, my god. So it retains a lot of the same elements from Episode 1. You still build up stock to attack more, though in a different way in Episode 2 compared to 1. You still build up boost gauge so that you can jump ahead in the turn order. You still have ether abilities, which are your magic attacks and abilities. You still have tech attacks, though they're very different in this game. And you still have a combo-centric turn-based gameplay loop, though again, it's different in this game. Whereas in Saga Episode 1, the combos felt like they played the front and center role, where you were weaving between various combos to get to different tech attacks that you wanted to use on a moment-to-moment basis. and the tech attacks were really the star of the show. It's a rather simple gameplay loop, but it was satisfying and it was fun. Not the best turn-based system of all time, but it was really mechanically satisfying. And when we got to episode 2, they wanted to mix things up. They wanted to add more complexity to it and more depth. And the way they managed to do so was by adding the break system. If you're familiar with Xenoblade overall and the break topple launch idea, that is here, essentially. You do various combos, depending on the specific mob you're fighting, to break the target, and then once they're broken, you can do certain abilities that either launch them or knock them down, where afterwards you can continue putting in damage by boosting the other characters and using your stocks and all of your abilities to get a damage modifier to pump out a lot of damage while they're launched or downed. On top of all of that, you have double attacks, double tech attacks, and double ethers. There is a lot to this combat system, and it can be very hard to parse and to understand, especially with Monolith's in-game tutorials being rather shoddy still. Thank God I was streaming this, and I had quite a few people in my chat that know this game inside and out and were able to essentially coach me through how to play Xenosaga Episode 2, because they helped tremendously in terms of me being able to understand roughly how to play the game and to get some semblance of entertainment out of it, because otherwise it would have been a rough game to get through. I think the main problems with the combat loop in Episode 2, and what brought this game down so much for a lot of people, was how slow and sluggish the combat system ends up becoming. Enemies have so much HP and they can hit so dang hard, where regular basic enemies can feel like full boss fights and even go on for like way longer than you think. It's like you would think boss fights are supposed to go for like 10, 20, 30 minutes. Some regular enemies you run into can easily go that length of time, especially if they throw a bunch of enemies at you. Like they will sometimes do, like throwing 3 to 4 enemies. And especially for certain dungeons, they can go on for quite a while and throw a bunch of different enemies at you. It goes on for a while, and can get extremely tiring very quickly, especially since the core gameplay loop kind of stays the same throughout the game. And the reason I say the gameplay can be very slow and sluggish is because not only do enemies hit really hard, not only do they have a lot of HP, but in order to effectively get through all that HP, you want to make use of the launch and down windows, for me, preferably the launch windows. So what I would do is I would stock all of my characters to max stock. Each character can stock up to 3 times, essentially guarding. So instead of taking an action, you guard/defend for a turn, build up a stock, and then on a turn of your choosing on that character, they can do an extra attack for the number of stocks that you have. I do this 3 times with all of my characters, and then I also have to build up boost gauge. So on a single turn, I can swap to another character immediately and capitalize on a launch window before they fall down. And then before I properly launch an enemy, I would also want to apply all the right buffs to my main attackers to make sure I'm doing even more damage. It's a lot of prep work you end up doing on a fight-per-fight basis. So it can feel really repetitive, especially when you get closer to the end. Fights just have so much HP, and you kind of tackle them all roughly the same way. So instead of having that minimalistic but engaging approach Episode 1 had, where you're just trying to pump out very big tech attacks and stuff like that, in Episode 2, you're doing all this setup constantly for one big burst, and when you do that big burst, it can feel really good, and then you realize, oh, I have to do it all over again, because attacking regularly, like 8 times out of 9, feels as if you're just hitting enemies with a wet noodle. It doesn't really amount to much. Don't even get me started on the mech combat in this game, because yeah, the mech's designs are very cool, and they're a hell of a lot more useful than the eggs of Xenosaga Episode 1, but the problem here is that the combat system in Episode 2 is so heavily reliant upon the launch and down system, the mechs don't have that. So they just feel weirdly hollow. So it's like you're going between the combat system that feels hyper repetitive, where you're just prepping for big launch windows, or you're going into mech combat, where you just kind of identify the one ability you use on each of the individual enemies that actually puts out damage. You build up your gauge for a big special ability, and you just kind of put that out, rinse, repeat. It's very shallow. But also, again, extremely slow. Especially when you're moving around the maps with the giant robots. My god, are they slow. I feel like a turtle with 3 legs would go faster sometimes. And it's like, yeah, I am not surprised this game was basically the beginning of the end for Xenosaga. I'm not surprised by that at all. When as a video game, your weakest element, bar none, is your gameplay, Houston, we have an issue. I don't think it's completely irredeemable, mind you. However, like some of those regular fights near the end of the game were starting to go for like 20 to 30 minutes for regular trash mobs, just in the dungeons. And some of the bosses you end up doing feel as if they don't do anything till the last like half of the HP bar, in which case they can just start pumping out so much damage, you feel like you're scrambling just to survive, let alone build up for a big launch window. And it's the worst feeling ever when certain enemies just can't be launched. I am going to do the post-game. I do plan on doing every piece of content this game has to offer, don't get me wrong. But I will say, when I do eventually move on from episode 2 after doing the post-game, the combat is going to be something that I will be glad to leave in the rearview mirror. Now, despite everything that I've just talked about in regards to episode 2, if you asked me whether or not I still like the game, I wouldn't say that I liked it. I would say that I loved it. And what is it that I loved from episode 2? The story, the characters, the music, the feel, the look of it all. My god, is this game epic? Is it a tug at your heartstrings kind of story? It's so dang good. I love the pacing. I love how it's a natural continuation from the story of episode 1. Sure, it's a little bit tropey here and there. Sure, it can be a little bit generic here and there. I don't care. I think it's well executed, for the most part. It has some really badass and awesome fight scenes, namely with Jin and Mogulus. It has some tremendous lore and world building, and I'm so utterly fascinated by the state of the story right now at the end of episode 2, I am chomping at the bit to dive into like Pied Piper missing here in episode 3 to find out more. The story is becoming way more complex and interesting. I love how this game does symbolism. I love how it does like religious metaphors. I love how Monolith and Takahashi construct and tell a story. And for me personally, the story is not even an issue in episode 2. It's one of its greatest strengths. I loved it so dang much, and the use of music in episode 2, in my opinion, is so much better than in episode 1. Having a lot of the dungeons just be dead silence in episode 1 to really drive home the emptiness and the void of space, yeah, cool, sure. I prefer having background music, and the music in episode 2 can get a little bit repetitive here and there, but I still really enjoy it and I love it. Now, granted, episode 2 is one of the most egregious elements of a story I've ever seen. That is the transition from disc 1 to disc 2 being so rapid. Like, my god, you could fit half a game's worth of lore just in that one cutscene they threw at you in between those discs. And like, my god, if you ever bring this game back again, you need to flesh that out. Make it a full-blown cutscene. Don't just like speedrun like all those events back to back. It's super jarring and hard to follow. But like, when you get back into the swing of it, my god, is the finale of this game not epic? Like, my god, those cutscenes, I'm saying that a lot, but seriously, I can't express to you how awesome, high adrenaline, and badass the final third of this game truly is. It's so dang cool. And the cutscenes blew me away. I just constantly kept thinking to myself, how is this a PS2 game? How has it taken me this long to play this? To experience this? Not only do you have badass fight scenes between Jin and Mogulus, but on top of that, you have this really emotional and borderline tear-jerking storyline between like Junior, Momo, and this other character called Sakura. And the way they handle the story of the URTVs, the way they handle the story of Momo and Junior, I think it's really well executed. And I think it's really damn well told. I was on the edge of my seat throughout most of the cutscenes in this game because I just wanted to find out more. Like, the main story in this game blew by for me. The gameplay took forever and felt super sluggish, but the story felt so quick because I was so thoroughly engaged by what was going on. This game has some absolutely phenomenal world building, and it's so interesting and so dang cool. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with just being cool. It's like we have planets turning into giant spaceships, dude. I mean, come on. We're going into the depths of giant starships in between two black holes. I mean, come on. Sci-fi is awesome, especially when it just leans into it all. And then you get side missions, which are like, hey, go hang up some posters for me. Hey, go play this quiz game for me. Hey, deliver this love letter for me. It's like, oh my god. Yeah, the side missions called GS missions in this game are really nothing to write home about, and they vary in terms of mechanical complexity, interest, and they largely feel like filler. I'm gonna do them anyways because I want to do everything, but, I mean, they're there, they pat the time out, they're definitely not gonna be everyone's cup of tea, and they will be a system that I will be glad to see go. And like, yeah, customization in this game can sometimes feel a little bit limiting. It's like the class and skill system, I think, is rather interesting, where you have various levels, and within those levels, various classes that contain subgroups of abilities. There's only a few abilities that I found remotely interesting or engaging so far, and the equipable skills feel kind of bleh to me, but I already didn't like the combat that much, so it's no real, like, sweat off my back. But I think the people that will enjoy episode 2 of Xenosaga are the people that are wanting just a really dang good story. If you're here for, like, a deep and engaging turn-based combat system, I mean, there's a lot to it, don't get me wrong, I just don't think it's particularly all that good. But the story, the world, the characters, the music, I think they knock it out of the park. The visual imagery, the use of metaphor, the use of symbolism. It's one of those games where if you just want to enjoy it on a surface level, sure, you can do that, absolutely. But like all Monolith games that I've played, the more you dig at them, the more you pick away, the more there is to enjoy and appreciate. And I love stories and I love worlds that are like that. So in conclusion, do I like Xenosaga Episode 2? Yes. I love this game because the story is that engaging, that enthralling, that gripping. I love the characters, I love the music, I love the set pieces in this game. They're so dang cool. And I'm someone where, so long as you give me something that I can really truly appreciate and like, I can try to ignore the other stuff, or I can allow myself to focus largely on the elements that I do like instead of like dragging it all down because of those elements that I don't like. I'm someone that can do that, and that's part of the reason why I enjoyed Xenosaga Episode 2 so much. Yes, the gameplay is a massive slog. No, I would not call it necessarily a good video game, but I think it was a great experience overall. I still want to do all the post-game stuff because I want to be able to say that I've done everything in this. But it's a story, it's a cast of characters, it's a world I'm never going to forget, and I can't wait to find out more about. Once again, I will say it until the end of time, remake, remaster, port, whatever, bring back Xenosaga, because these stories do not deserve to be forgotten. And with that, I have a job for you. A mission, if you will, a quest. I want you to leave a comment down below with if you have played Xenosaga or not. If you have, which one was your favorite? What was your favorite moment or experience from Xenosaga? Try not to spoil me. And if you haven't played Xenosaga, would you be interested in trying it out? And for those who have played it and haven't played it, do you want to see them bring back Xenosaga as a series? Let your voices be heard. And while you're down there, if you want more Xenosaga coverage and to be up to date on all things Xeno, leave a like and subscribe. Follow me on TikTok, Twitch, and Twitter, Jmulls G. I have a Discord in the description down below. And we have a lot to talk about, and Gamescom is imminent. And if you want to hear my thoughts on the anticipation, the hype, leading into the World of Warcraft Midnight Cinematic reveal at Gamescom, which I will be live streaming on this YouTube channel and my Twitch, you should check out this video right here for more. Stay safe, everybody. Have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again!